The crash of Marcus Hale's cleaning supplies hitting the marble floor echoed through the executive lounge like a gunshot. He stood paralyzed in the doorway, his world collapsing around him as his brain struggled to process the impossible scene before him. Alexandra Hawthorne, CEO of Hawthorne Technologies, the woman Forbes had just named most ruthless executive in tech, the ice queen who fired senior VPs during earnings calls without blinking, was sitting on a leather sofa with her silk blouse open, breastfeeding an infant. Not just any infant. Lily, his 8-month-old daughter. What the hell is happening? Marcus's voice shattered the silence, raw with horror and confusion. Get your hands off my child. Alexandra's head snapped up, but instead of the embarrassment or shame Marcus expected, her expression held something far more unsettling, a fierce, primal protectiveness that mirrored his own. Mr. Hale, she said, her voice steady despite being caught in such an intimate act. Please close the door. Marcus lurched forward instead, hands trembling with rage and fear. That's my daughter. How are you even? He couldn't finish the sentence, his mind reeling at the biological impossibility of what he was witnessing. Alexander Hawthorne was breastfeeding his child, a woman who, as far as he knew, had never had children. A woman whose entire public persona was built on calculated ruthlessness and emotional detachment. She was hungry, Alexander said simply, adjusting her hold on Lily with practiced ease. And I can provide what she needs. That's not, you can't. Marcus struggled to form coherent thoughts as he reached for his daughter. Where's Mrs. Abernathy? How is my baby even here? Lily, startled by her father's agitation, unlatched and began to cry. Alexandra shifted the infant to her shoulder with one fluid motion, patting her back while maintaining unwavering eye contact with Marcus. Your neighbor had a medical emergency, she explained with unnerving calm. When my office was contacted as your emergency number, I had my driver bring Lily here. You're not my emergency contact, Marcus snapped, closing the distance between them. And you still haven't explained how you're able to. He gestured helplessly at her partially exposed breast, the words sticking in his throat. Alexandra carefully readjusted her clothing before finally passing Lily to her father. The baby settled against his shoulder, but kept her eyes fixed on Alexandra with a fascination that sent chills down Marcus's spine. I've been lactating for 8 months, she stated with clinical precision. Since the week Lily was born. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. That's not possible. It's rare but documented, Alexandra continued, rising to her full height. Even in bare feet, her presence filled the room with authority. When a woman experiences intense hormonal and psychological responses to an infant, lactation can sometimes occur without pregnancy. It's called adoptive breastfeeding. Marcus took a protective step backward. You've never even met my daughter before tonight, haven't I? Alexandra's gaze never wavered as she reached for her phone. With a few deliberate taps, she turned the screen toward him. On display was a hospital photograph. Marcus asleep in a chair beside Julie's bed, a newborn Lily swaddled in a pink blanket between them. A private moment he'd never shared. A moment no one else should have been able to capture. I was there, Alexandra said softly. In the delivery room, behind the curtain. Julie allowed it. The room seemed to tilt beneath Marcus's feet. You knew Julie? How was that even? I've known Julie since she was 14 years old, Alexandra interrupted. Just as I've known about you since the moment she met you. Marcus clutched Lily tighter, his protective instinct screaming. That makes no sense. Julie grew up in foster care. She had no family. That's what she believed, Alexandra agreed, something haunted flickering behind her eyes. She was wrong. With deliberate movements, Alexandra opened a small silver locket that hung around her neck, a feminine anomaly on a woman whose only other accessories were a sleek watch and a wedding band. Inside were 2 tiny photographs, a teenage girl with Julie's smile and a younger child with eyes identical to Lily's. My daughters, Alexandra said, her composed voice finally betraying a tremor. Elizabeth, who died of leukemia 11 years ago, and Catherine, who disappeared 2 days after this photo was taken. Marcus stared at the images, his world rearranging itself with sickening speed. The younger girl's features were hauntingly familiar. The same distinctive arch of eyebrows, the same determined chin that he saw every day in his daughter's face. Julie wasn't an orphan, Mr. Hale, Alexandra continued, closing the locket with a decisive snap. She was my stolen child. My Catherine. Taken from our beach house when she was 13 and vanished so completely that even my billions couldn't find her. The revelation crashed through Marcus's consciousness like breaking glass. That's insane, he whispered, but even as denial left his lips, connections were forming in his mind. Julie's mysterious past, her refusal to discuss her childhood, her panic attacks whenever police sirens sounded nearby. When facial recognition flagged your daughter's hospital photos, I had you transferred from our Phoenix division to headquarters here, Alexandra continued, her CEO precision returning. I've spent 8 months confirming what I suspected, that the woman who gave birth to your daughter, the woman who abandoned you both when Lily was 8 weeks old, was my Catherine. You've been watching us? Marcus's voice rose, startling Lily. Manipulating my life? My job. I've been protecting my granddaughter, Alexander corrected, the word granddaughter landing between them with seismic force, and searching for answers about what happened to my child. The apartment that mysteriously became available when Lily was born. The janitor position that somehow included comprehensive health insurance. The unexpected scholarship for online classes. Benefits far beyond standard, explained away by HR as special programs he'd qualified for. Julie ran because she remembered, didn't she? Marcus realized, cold certainty spreading through him. She finally remembered who she was. Alexandra's expression confirmed his suspicion. 3 months before Lily's birth, Catherine's childhood teddy bear was delivered anonymously to Julie's workplace. The only personal item that disappeared with her 13 years ago. Her voice hardened. Someone wanted her to remember. Someone who'd kept her hidden all those years. What? Marcus demanded. Who would steal a child, and the same people who tried to access Lily's hospital room the night she was born, Alexandra cut in. The same people my security team has been keeping away from you both for 8 months while I assembled enough evidence to move against them. Her gaze dropped to Lily, softening momentarily. The same people who will destroy her if they discover she exists. Fear coiled in Marcus's stomach. What people? What are you talking about? Alexandra Hawthorne, tech visionary, billionaire, and apparently Lily's grandmother, stepped closer, her expression shifting to something Marcus had never seen in their 3 years of brief encounters. Raw, unfiltered vulnerability. My husband didn't die in a sailing accident 12 years ago, Mr. Hale. He was murdered after discovering financial irregularities in our family foundation. Irregularities that pointed to a human trafficking operation using our charitable work as cover. Her voice dropped lower. Catherine was taken as a warning. By people powerful enough to make a billionaire's child disappear without a trace. Marcus's legs nearly buckled beneath him. And now Julie's running from these same people? Not running, Alexander corrected grimly. Hunting. The teddy bear came with encoded information. Data my husband had hidden before his death. Data Catherine would instinctively know how to access. Pride flashed across her features. She was coding with him since she was 7. She'd remember. The implications crashed through Marcus in devastating waves. Julie hadn't abandoned them. She'd left to protect them. To pursue the people who had stolen her life, her identity, her family. Why are you telling me this now? He whispered, the weight of these revelations crushing against his chest. Why tonight? Alexandra turned her tablet screen toward him, displaying a news article dated 3 hours earlier. The headline made his blood run cold. Asterisk unidentified woman's body found in Lake Washington starred. Because I need your help to determine if that's my daughter, Alexandra said, her voice finally breaking on the last word. And because if it isn't, if Catherine is still alive, then Lily is the only person on earth who might be able to lead us to her. What Marcus couldn't see was the tiny red light blinking on the security camera in the corner of the room, a camera that should have been disabled on Alexandra's orders, but had been secretly reactivated minutes before his arrival. Nor could he see the man watching their encounter through that camera, his face contorted with cold fury as he reached for a phone to make a call that would set in motion events that would threaten not just Catherine's secrets, but all of their lives. Hey everyone, I'm absolutely blown away by this story unfolding before us. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. If you're as shocked as I am by this incredible revelation, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. You won't want to miss what happens next as we discover the truth about Catherine's disappearance and the powerful forces that have been manipulating these families for years. Could Julie still be alive? What dark secrets is Alexandra still hiding? Share your theories in the comments. Dawn broke over Seattle as Marcus paced the length of Alexandra Hawthorne's private office. Lily finally asleep in the portable crib that had materialized from somewhere within the building. The cityscape stretched below them, cars already crawling along early morning routes, their drivers oblivious to the life-shattering revelations unfolding 52 stories above. "Drink," Alexandra instructed, sliding a cup of coffee across the glass desk. She had transformed since their confrontation in the executive lounge. Power suit replaced by slim jeans and a cashmere sweater retrieved from the private wardrobe she apparently maintained on site. Her feet now in expensive flats rather than the intimidating heels she wore to command boardrooms. The casual clothing made her more human, but somehow no less formidable. "I don't want coffee," Marcus said, his voice rough from a sleepless night. "I want proof. Evidence. Something beyond a convenient facial resemblance and your ability to feed my child." Alexandra's expression didn't change, but something flashed behind her eyes. Respect, perhaps. She opened a drawer and extracted a thick file folder. "Catherine Hawthorne disappeared on June 17, 2012, from our beach house on Bainbridge Island." She began, clinical precision masking the emotion beneath. Despite an intensive investigation by local police, FBI, and private security, no trace was found except this. She placed a photograph on the desk, a small teddy bear with a distinctive blue patch on its arm. This was recovered from a dumpster in Tacoma 3 days after her disappearance. It was her constant companion, given to her by her father when she was 4. Marcus stared at the image, his mind flashing to the identical teddy bear he'd found in Julie's apartment after she disappeared, the one Lily now slept with every night. He'd assumed it was something from Julie's mysterious past, never questioning why it seemed relatively new despite its worn appearance. "You're saying Julie received this bear as some kind of message?" he asked. "Not just a message. A key." Alexandra tapped the bear's image. "My husband, Daniel, was obsessively security conscious. He developed a system for encoding data within seemingly ordinary objects, a precaution he took as Hawthorne Technologies' government contracts expanded into classified territories." She met Marcus's skeptical gaze directly. Catherine's bear contained a microchip in its patch. Daniel showed her how it worked when she was 7, calling it their secret treasure chest. If she received that bear as an adult, she would have known to look for hidden data. Marcus finished, the pieces aligning with sickening clarity. 3 months before Lily was born, Julie started acting paranoid. Changed her locks, insisted on moving to a new apartment, began researching self-defense classes. The memory of Julie's increasingly erratic behavior in those final pregnancy months took on new meaning. Not hormones or prenatal anxiety as he'd assumed, but the awakening of buried trauma. "What was on the chip?" he asked. Alexandra's composure finally cracked, grief flashing across her features. "I don't know. The original was lost with Catherine. The bear sent to Julie would have contained new information, something whoever sent it wanted her to see." "Why now?" Marcus demanded, frustration building. "Why after 13 years? "Because the statute of limitations on certain financial crimes expires after 15 years, came a new voice from the doorway. They both turned to see a tall woman with silver-streaked dark hair and the unmistakable bearing of law enforcement. She carried herself with the hyper-awareness of someone accustomed to wearing a weapon, though she was currently unarmed. "Marcus, this is Special Agent Diana Chun," Alexandra introduced. "Formerly FBI Crimes Against Children Unit. Now, my head of private security." "Former FBI?" Marcus questioned, immediately suspicious. "Convenient." Chen's expression remained neutral. "I left the Bureau 6 years ago after my investigation into Catherine's disappearance was shut down without explanation. Mrs. Hawthorne hired me the next day. Diana believes Catherine's abduction was connected to something Daniel discovered within the Hawthorne Foundation's international operations," Alexandra continued. "Something powerful enough to get an FBI investigation buried." Marcus sank into a chair, the weight of these revelations becoming physically overwhelming. "And you think Catherine, remembered something that made her a target again?" "Not remembered," Chun corrected. "Discovered." The chip would have contained Daniel's evidence against whoever was using the foundation as cover. For what? Marcus asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. Alexandra and Chun exchanged glances. It was Alexandra who finally responded, her CEO precision giving way to raw anger. The Hawthorne Foundation built schools and medical clinics in 12 developing countries. We discovered later that certain facilities have been used to identify vulnerable children, create fraudulent adoption paperwork, and transport them internationally. The implication hit Marcus with physical force. Human trafficking, the most lucrative kind, Chun confirmed grimly. Designer children for wealthy clients willing to pay millions for a child with specific characteristics. No questions asked, no paper trail. Marcus glanced instinctively toward Lily's crib, nausea rising in his throat. And your husband found out. Daniel noticed financial discrepancies first, Alexandra said, her voice hollow with old grief. Money moving through foundation accounts in patterns that didn't match our projects. When he started asking questions, he was killed. Made it look like a sailing accident. And Catherine was taken as insurance, Chen added. A warning to Alexandra to stop investigating. Marcus studied Alexandra with new understanding. The notorious Ice Queen of Tech wasn't cold by nature. She'd frozen herself to survive unbearable loss. You never stopped looking for her, he said. It wasn't a question. Never, Alexandra confirmed, something fierce flashing in her eyes. I built Hawthorne Technologies into what it is today for one purpose, to create resources powerful enough to find my daughter and destroy the people who took her. The ruthless business tactics that had made Alexandra Hawthorne both feared and famous suddenly made perfect sense. She hadn't been building an empire, she'd been forging a weapon. What happened when Julie disappeared from our apartment? Marcus asked, the question that had haunted him for 6 months finally finding voice. Was she running from something? Or towards something? Alexandra slid a photograph across the desk, security footage showing Julie entering a public library 3 days after she'd vanished from Marcus's life. Her hair was cut short, dyed dark, but her determined expression was unmistakable. She accessed a computer there for exactly 7 minutes, Chen explained. Used it to send one encrypted email to an account associated with a former Hawthorne Foundation executive named Victor Cruz. The name meant nothing to Marcus. What did the email say? I have what Daniel found. Meet where it happened. Alexandra quoted from memory, the words clearly seared into her consciousness. The account was defunct, but the message triggered alerts we'd placed years ago. And this Victor Cruz? Did he respond? Chen's expression darkened. Cruz was found dead in his Berlin apartment 2 days later. Official cause, suicide. Marcus connected the terrible dots. So whoever received Julie's message killed Cruz and went after her instead. Yes, Alexandra confirmed, her gaze drifting to Lily's sleeping form. And now, potentially, they've found her. The unidentified body in Lake Washington hung between them like a specter. Marcus couldn't bring himself to ask the question pressing against his consciousness. Was his daughter now motherless? As if sensing his thoughts, Alexandra spoke again, her voice softening. The medical examiner is expediting DNA. Comparison against samples I've provided from Catherine's childhood. We should know within hours. Marcus rubbed his face, exhaustion and emotional overload, making it difficult to think clearly. And if it's not her? If Julie, Catherine, is still alive, then she's still in danger, Chen stated flatly. And so is Lily. The protective surge that rose in Marcus was primal and overwhelming. Why? She's just a baby. Alexandra and Chun exchanged another glance, communication flowing between them with the efficiency of long partnership. Because Lily might be the only person who can lead us to Catherine, Alexandra explained, and to the evidence that could bring down an international trafficking network. Marcus stared at her in confusion. She's 8 months old. How could she possibly blood quantum entanglement? Alexandra interrupted. A theoretical connection between parent and child at the molecular level. Something Daniel was researching before his death. The concept sounded like science fiction, but Marcus had worked at Hawthorne Technologies long enough to know the company operated at the bleeding edge of multiple scientific frontiers. You think Lily has some kind of psychic connection to Julie? Not psychic. Quantum, Alexandra corrected. Daniel believed close biological relatives, particularly mother and child, maintain subatomic connections that transcend conventional space-time limitations. He was developing technology to map these connections when he died. Marcus barked out a disbelieving laugh. And you continued his work? Using my daughter as a test subject? Not a test subject, Alexander countered sharply. A key. The technology exists, Mr. Hale. It's been operational for 6 months. We've been using it to monitor Lily's quantum signatures, looking for resonance patterns that might indicate Catherine's location. The revelation that his daughter had been under some kind of quantum surveillance without his knowledge sent Marcus surging to his feet. That stops now, he demanded, moving toward Lily's crib. Whatever you think is happening, whatever crazy theory you're testing, I'm taking my daughter and leaving. Mr. Hale, Chen interjected, stepping between him and the crib with fluid precision. There's something you should know about the night Julie left. Marcus froze. What about it? She came to this building first, Chen said, her tone deliberately neutral. Access the executive floor using a service elevator keycard we still haven't identified. She spent 17 minutes in this office. That's impossible, Marcus said automatically. The night she disappeared, she told me she was going to the store for formula. When she didn't come back after an hour, I called her cell. It went straight to voicemail. She was here at 7:43 p.m., Chun confirmed, nodding toward a surveillance image on Alexander's tablet. Security logs show she left at 8:01. Her cell phone was disconnected at 8:17. Marcus's mind raced, reconstructing the timeline of the worst night of his life. Julie had left their apartment around 7:30. She'd come straight to Hawthorne Tower, spent 17 minutes in Alexander's office, then disappeared. What did she do here? He demanded, turning to Alexandra. What did she want? Not what? Alexander corrected softly. Who? She touched a control on her desk, activating a wall screen that displayed security footage from that night. The image showed Julie, hair still long then, face thinner from recent childbirth, standing in this very office, arms wrapped protectively around herself as she faced Alexandra across the same desk where they now stood. There was no audio, but the tension between the women was palpable even in the grainy footage. Julie appeared to be speaking rapidly, gesturing with increasing agitation while Alexandra remained unnaturally still, her expression hidden from the camera angle. Then, in a moment that sent ice through Marcus's veins, Julie placed both hands on the desk and leaned forward, her face contorting with what could only be described as hatred. Alexandra's response was equally disturbing. She opened a drawer, removed something, and placed it on the desk between them. Whatever it was caused Julie to recoil violently, backing away until she hit the wall. The footage ended with Julie fleeing the office, Alexandra making no move to stop her. What did you show her? Marcus whispered, dread pooling in his stomach. Alexandra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she opened the same desk drawer, removing a small evidence bag containing what appeared to be a tarnished silver locket. This was recovered from Daniel's body, she said, her voice clinically detached. It wasn't his. The medical examiner believed it belonged to his killer, torn off during a struggle before the accident. She placed the bag on the desk, and Marcus forced himself to look closer. Inside the locket was a tiny photograph, faded but still discernible. A young Julie, perhaps 14 years old. I showed this to Catherine when she came here, Alexandra continued, something vulnerable finally cracking through her composed exterior. I told her I'd spent 13 years searching for her, that I knew who she really was, that I could protect her and Lily from the people who had stolen her childhood. And, Marcus prompted, though he already knew the answer from the security footage. She called me a liar, Alexandra whispered, genuine pain flashing across her features. Said I was manipulating her just like everyone else, that she knew the truth about me. What truth? Alexandra's gaze dropped to the locket. That I was involved in her abduction, that I had arranged my husband's murder, that the trafficking operation was mine, not something done behind my back. The accusation hung in the air between them, monstrous and unthinkable. Marcus studied Alexandra's face, searching for any hint of deception. And was it true? He asked, his voice hardening as he moved closer to Lily's crib. Was Julie right about you? No, Alexandra stated flatly. But someone had convinced her it was. Someone who knew enough details about Catherine's abduction to make the lies believable. Someone who sent her the bear, Marcus realized, baiting her with the promise of evidence, but actually manipulating her into believing you were the villain. Exactly, Chen confirmed. Classique désinformation technique. Use enough verifiable facts to make the lies stick. Marcus's mind spun with possibilities. If Julie had been convinced that Alexandra was behind the trafficking operation, behind Daniel's death, behind her own kidnapping, then coming to confront her former mother would make a twisted kind of sense. What did she want from you that night? He asked. Confirmation, Alexandra replied. And leverage. She had Lily's paternity test with her. Proof that you were the biological father, not someone connected to the foundation. I believe she wanted to ensure I couldn't claim Lily if something happened to her. The implication sent a chill through Marcus. She was planning something. Something dangerous. She was hunting, Chun corrected, using herself as bait to draw out whoever was truly responsible for destroying her life. And now they might have found her, Marcus finished grimly, glancing toward his sleeping daughter with newfound dread. The office phone rang, its sharp tone shattering the tension. Alexandra answered with single-syllable responses, her expression revealing nothing until she hung up. The medical examiner has preliminary results, she said, her sewing mask firmly back in place. The body from Lake Washington is not Catherine. Wrong blood type, wrong dental records. Relief crashed through Marcus with such force that his knees nearly buckled. Julie was still alive. But Alexandra's next words froze the moment of celebration. However, she continued, the victim had this in her possession. She turned her tablet screen toward him. The image showed a waterlogged teddy bear with a distinctive blue patch, identical to the one in the earlier photo, identical to the one Lily now slept with at home. A second bear, Chen noted, with a different chip, and a message sewn inside, Alexandra added, zooming in on the image to reveal tiny stitches forming words across the bear's chest. Asterisk if they find me. Protect the quantum bridge. Only Lily can cross. Asterisk the cryptic message hung between them, its meaning unclear yet somehow ominous. Marcus looked from the tablet to Lily, fear and confusion battling within him. What does that mean? He demanded. What quantum bridge? Before Alexandra could answer, her private cell phone chimed with an alert. She glanced at it, her composed expression immediately shattering. We've been compromised, she said, all business now as she activated security protocols with rapid keystrokes. Someone accessed our conversation in the executive lounge. The quantum lab has been breached. Chun moved with practiced efficiency, drawing a concealed weapon from beneath her jacket while barking orders into her communication device. Within seconds, alarms began blaring throughout the building. We need to move, Alexandra stated, already gathering essentials into a secure case. Now, before they realize Lily is here. Who? Marcus demanded, scooping his daughter from the crib. Who's coming? Alexandra's answer, delivered with the cold precision of someone who had prepared for this moment for 13 years, would reshape Marcus's understanding of power, corruption, and the lengths a mother would go to protect her child. The same people who've been watching you since Lily's birth, she said, retrieving a small device from her desk safe. People embedded within federal agencies, international finance, and global technology. People who've spent decades perfecting the art of making children disappear. As security lockdowns engaged throughout Hawthorne Tower, Marcus clutched his daughter against his chest, the terrible truth finally dawning. You're saying we can't trust anyone, he whispered. Not police. Not FBI. No one. Alexandra Hawthorne, tech visionary, grieving mother, and now Lily's most formidable protector, met his gaze with grim determination. We can trust Catherine, she replied, activating the device in her hand. A holographic display materialized between them, showing a pulsing light moving across what appeared to be a map. And thanks to Lily, we can finally find her. The quantum bridge had opened, connecting mother and daughter across whatever distance separated them. But as Marcus would soon discover, some connections were never meant to be followed, and some truths were more dangerous than any lie. Hey everyone, I'm absolutely loving your comments coming in from around the world. Where are you watching from? If you're as invested as I am in this twisting mystery, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next as Marcus, Alexandra, and baby Lily go on the run, following the quantum connection to Julie/Catherine. What do you think they'll discover about the trafficking network? And who is really pulling the strings behind all this? Share your theories below. 40 minutes after Hawthorne Tower went into lockdown, Marcus found himself in the back of an armored SUV speeding north along deserted service roads. Lily asleep in a military-grade infant carrier secured between him and Alexandra. Agent Chen drove with ruthless efficiency, her eyes constantly checking mirrors for signs of pursuit. "Where exactly are we going?" Marcus demanded, his voice low to avoid waking his daughter. The events of the past 12 hours had left him reeling, yet something had crystallized within him, a cold clarity that came with accepting the unacceptable. "Safe house in the Cascades," Alexandra replied, her attention focused on the quantum tracking device in her lap. The pulsing light indicating Catherine's location hadn't moved in over an hour. Completely off-grid. No digital footprint. "Another contingency you prepared for?" Marcus asked, unable to keep bitterness from his voice. "Another secret you kept while watching my daughter for months?" Alexandra's eyes flicked up from the device, something unexpected flashing across her face. Not the corporate defense he anticipated, but raw honesty. "Yes," she said simply. "I've prepared for every scenario since Catherine disappeared, including this one." The admission hung between them as Chun navigated a sharp turn onto an unmarked forest road. Dawn had fully broken now, weak winter sunlight filtering through towering pines. "Tell me about her," Marcus said suddenly. "Catherine, before she was taken." The request seemed to catch Alexandra off guard. For a moment, the formidable CO disappeared, replaced by something Marcus had never witnessed in their brief professional encounters: a mother remembering her child. "She was brilliant," Alexandra began softly. "Not just academically, though she was certainly that. She had emotional intelligence beyond her years. Could read a room better than most adults." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Daniel called her our little diplomat." "Julie was like that," Marcus offered, surprising himself with the comparison. "She could always tell what I was feeling, even when I thought I was hiding it." Alexandra nodded. Catherine loved puzzle boxes. Anything with hidden mechanisms or secret compartments. She and Daniel would spend hours designing increasingly complex ones for each other. Her voice caught slightly. The teddy bear chip was their favorite game. Secret messages for secret agents, they called it. The memory painted a picture so at odds with the ruthless executive image Alexandra had cultivated that Marcus struggled to reconcile them. He glanced down at Lily, seeing shadows of this unknown past in his daughter's features. "What happened the day she disappeared?" he asked quietly. Alexandra's posture shifted, armor sliding back into place. "We were at our beach house on Bainbridge Island. Family weekend. Daniel had been working non-stop on something he wouldn't discuss, even with me." Her clinical tone couldn't quite mask the pain beneath. He took Catherine for a walk along the shore after breakfast. When they returned, she wanted to go swimming, but storm clouds were moving in. "I told her we'd go the next day." She paused, collecting herself. "I was on a conference call when the security alarms triggered. By the time I reached the beach, there was blood on the sand and 2 sets of drag marks leading to the water. Neither Daniel nor Catherine were anywhere to be found. Daniel's body washed up 3 days later, chenatted from the driver's seat. Catherine was never found. The stark recounting hung in the air between them. Marcus tried to imagine the horror of that day, the desperate search that followed, the years of uncertainty and hope slowly crushed beneath the weight of reality. "You said there was blood," he noted. "Was it Daniel's?" "Some of it," Alexander confirmed. "The rest belonged to a man named Eric Forrester, a former military contractor working private security. His body was recovered a mile offshore." "Your security?" Marcus asked. "Not mine," Alexander clarified, something dangerous flashing in her eyes. "He was masquerading as landscape maintenance. We later discovered he had connections to something called the Sentinel Initiative, a private military operation with ties to several international adoption agencies used by the Hawthorne Foundation." The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. He was there to take Catherine and eliminate Daniel, Chun confirmed. But something went wrong. "Based on evidence recovered later, we believe Daniel managed to kill Forrester during the abduction, but was fatally wounded himself." "So who took Catherine?" Marcus asked, the question that had haunted Alexandra for 13 years. Forrester's partner, Alexandra replied. Someone who completed the mission despite losing their operative. Someone who managed to make a 13-year-old girl disappear so completely that all my resources couldn't find her. Her gaze dropped to the quantum tracker. Until now, the SUV turned onto an even narrower road, barely more than a trail through increasingly dense forest. Lily stirred in her carrier, making the soft sighing sounds that usually preceded waking. What exactly is this quantum connection? Marcus asked, gently rocking the carrier to soothe his daughter back to sleep. How can it possibly track Julie? Alexandra hesitated, clearly weighing how much to reveal. Daniel theorized that certain paired quantum particles maintain connection regardless of distance, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. But Daniel believed this quantum entanglement occurs naturally between close biological relatives, particularly mothers and children. That sounds like pseudoscience, Marcus objected. It did to me too, Alexandra admitted, until Daniel demonstrated it worked. He developed a method to map these quantum signatures and track their resonance patterns. Something like pride flickered across her face. Catherine helped him test the early prototypes. She called it their heart telephone. Marcus glanced skeptically at the device. And this is supposed to lead us to Julie? Because she and Lily share some kind of quantum connection. It already has, Alexandra replied, turning the display toward him. The signal stabilized 47 minutes ago at these coordinates, approximately 3 hours from our current location. The pulsing on the topographic map appear to be in the middle of wilderness, far from any marked roads or structures. Marcus studied it with growing unease. And if it's a trap? If whoever sent that bear with a message knew about this quantum technology? That's exactly what we're counting on, Chun said from the front seat, her tone matter of fact. They've been hunting Catherine for months. Now they've settled somewhere, waiting for us to follow the connection. You're using us as bait? Marcus demanded, anger flaring. Not bait, Alexandra corrected sharply. The key. Catherine's message was clear, only Lily can cross. She's created a quantum bridge that only her daughter can navigate safely. Anyone else who approaches will trigger countermeasures. The explanation did nothing to quell Marcus's rising alarm. You're talking about taking my 8-month-old daughter into a potential ambush, guided by some experimental technology based on theoretical physics, to find a woman who might not even remember who she really is. Catherine remembers, Alexandra stated with absolute certainty. Everything. That's why she ran from you, to protect you both while she hunted the people who stole her life. Before Marcus could respond, Lily woke fully, her small face scrunching with hunger. Alexandra reached for the diaper bag, extracting a pre-made bottle with practiced ease. I can feed her, Marcus said automatically, reaching for the bottle. Alexandra met his gaze directly. I can provide what she needs more efficiently. It will metabolize better, and the antibody's fine, Marcus interrupted, recognizing the futility of arguing biology. He watched as Alexandra lifted Lily from the carrier with surprising gentleness, adjusting her blouse discreetly before beginning to nurse. The intimacy of the moment, his daughter being fed by this woman who was possibly her grandmother, this ruthless CEO who had been secretly watching them for months, created a complex tangle of emotions he couldn't fully process. When did it start? He asked, nodding toward Lily. The lactation. Alexandra's expression softened as she looked down at the nursing infant. 2 weeks after Lily was born, I was reviewing security footage of her in the hospital nursery when my body just responded. The medical term is psychosomatic lactation. My brain convinced my body that I needed to produce milk. A rare, genuine smile touched her lips. By the time I realized what was happening, I didn't want it to stop. The vulnerability of the admission struck Marcus deeply. This woman who commanded a technology empire worth billions, who had cultivated a public image of ice-cold precision, had been secretly nurturing a biological connection to the grandchild she'd never been allowed to meet. Does Julie know, he asked, that you can feed her child? No, Alexandra admitted. At least I don't believe so. It wasn't something I planned to share unless we found her. The SUV slowed as Chun turned onto what appeared to be an abandoned logging road. Approaching the property perimeter, she announced, activating a series of security protocols on the vehicle's specialized console. Going dark in 30 seconds. Alexandra adjusted her hold on Lily, who had fallen back asleep at her breast. Once we cross the perimeter, all electronic communications will be blocked, incoming and outgoing. The only operational technology will be the quantum tracker. Who exactly are we hiding from? Marcus asked, the reality of their situation finally sinking in fully. You keep mentioning people inside agencies, powerful connections. Who are they? Alexandra and Chun exchanged glances through the rearview mirror, some unspoken communication passing between them. It was Chun who finally answered. We call them the architects, she said, maneuvering the SUV through a nearly invisible gap between overgrown pines. A network of influential figures across government, finance, and technology who've been operating specialized human trafficking operations for at least 30 years. Specialized how? Marcus asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. They don't traffic in volume, Alexandra explained, her voice hardening. They deal in specifics. Children with particular genetic markers, cognitive profiles, or physical characteristics delivered to clients willing to pay millions for designer families without legal complications. Like adoption, but illegal? Nothing so benign, Chun corrected grimly. These children aren't being placed with loving parents unable to conceive. They're being acquired as assets, future intelligence operatives, potential scientific prodigies, even genetic material sources. The horrific implication hung in the air as the SUV finally broke through the tree line, revealing a modernist structure of concrete and glass nestled against the mountainside, nearly invisible from above or below. Why Catherine? Marcus asked as Chun parked in a concealed garage that seemed to materialize from the rocky hillside. Why was she targeted specifically? Alexandra's expression darkened as she carefully disengaged Lily from nursing. Because of what she inherited from me, and what she learned from Daniel. Which is eidetic memory, Alexandra stated flatly, combined with Daniel's pattern recognition abilities. Catherine could read complex code sequences once and reproduce them perfectly hours later. By 13, she was helping Daniel debug military-grade encryption protocols. Marcus stared at her, the implications sinking in. They didn't just take her as a warning to you. They took her for her abilities. Precisely, Alexandra confirmed, gently returning the sleeping Lily to her carrier. Abilities they've likely been cultivating and exploiting for 13 years, without her understanding their true purpose. The revelation cast Julie's computer science scholarship, her seemingly intuitive understanding of complex systems, in an entirely new light. Had those been remnants of Catherine's innate abilities, surfacing despite her captor's efforts to rewrite her identity? As they exited the vehicle, the mountain air hit Marcus with bracing clarity. The safe house before them hummed with subtle security measures, thermal sensors, motion detectors, what appeared to be some kind of perimeter defense system disguised as landscaping. How long have you maintained this place? He asked as Chun led them through a biometric security checkpoint. Since Catherine disappeared, Alexandra replied, adjusting Lily's blankets against the chill. I've established similar facilities in 7 countries. Places to run if we ever found her. The interior of the safe house belied its fortress-like security. Warm woods, comfortable furnishings, and a fully stocked kitchen created an atmosphere of calm that seemed at odds with their circumstances. Most surprising was the nursery, perfectly appointed with everything an infant might need, down to the specific brand of diapers Marcus used for Lily. You've been planning for this moment for a long time, he observed, unsettled by the evidence of Alexandra's meticulous preparation. 13 years, 4 months, and 17 days, she confirmed without emotion. Every decision I've made since Catherine disappeared has been in service of finding her. Chun secured the perimeter while Alexandra settled Lily in the nursery. When they reconvened in the main living area, the quantum tracker was projected onto a large wall screen, the pulsing dot marking Catherine's location now clearly visible in topographic detail. She's here, Alexandra said, indicating a point approximately 20 miles northeast of their location, in what appears to be an abandoned mining operation. The signal has remained stable for nearly 2 hours now. Marcus studied the map, wilderness survival training from his military days, automatically assessing terrain and approach routes. That's deep backcountry. No roads, heavy forest cover. Why would she go there? Because it's defensible, Chen noted professional assessment in her tone. Limited approaches, high ground advantage, natural cover. Classic guerrilla positioning. That's where they're holding her, Marcus countered, voicing the fear that had been building since they left the city. If this is a trap, we could be walking Lily right into it. Alexandra's focus remained on the map, her expression unreadable. The quantum signature is active and strong. Catherine is conscious and relatively stationary. If she were being held against her will, we'd see fluctuations in the pattern. You can tell all that from a blinking dot. Marcus asked skeptically. I can tell because I've been studying these patterns since Daniel first developed the technology, Alexandra replied without defensiveness. A parent learns to recognize their child's distress, Mr. Hale, even across quantum space. The use of his surname, a return to professional distance, wasn't lost on Marcus. Despite everything they'd shared in the past hours, Alexandra Hawthorne remained fundamentally unknowable. Her motivations clear, yet her methods obscured by years of necessary secrecy. Chun interrupted the growing tension, her attention on a secondary security screen. We have movement at the tower perimeter. Security protocols have been breached. Alexandra was instantly alert. Ow! This location is completely off record. Unknown, Chun replied, fingers flying across the control panel. But the infiltration is sophisticated. Whoever they are, they've disabled the first 2 layers of defense without triggering standard alerts. Marcus moved instinctively toward the nursery where Lily slept, paternal protection overriding all other concerns. How did they find us so quickly? The answer came in a burst of clarity that stopped him mid-stride. The baby. Carrier, he realized. When we left the tower, it wasn't Lily's regular one. Alexandra's expression confirmed his suspicion. Standard protocol. We maintain duplicate essentials for emergency evacuation, which means someone inside your security team compromised the equipment, Chun concluded grimly. Tagged it with trackers sophisticated enough to bypass our countermeasures. Alexandra's composure cracked, genuine alarm breaking through her controlled exterior. We need to move. Now, the quantum bridge is our only option. Bridge to where? Marcus demanded. You keep talking about this bridge like it's an actual physical thing. Because it is, Alexandra replied, crossing to a concealed panel in the living room wall. It slid open at her touch, revealing a small chamber containing what appeared to be advanced medical equipment surrounding a narrow bed. Daniel's final project, completed by my team 8 months ago. Marcus stared at the apparatus with growing dread. What exactly does it do? It amplifies and stabilizes the quantum connection between biologically related individuals, Alexandra explained, activating the system with practiced efficiency, creating a navigable pathway between them, regardless of physical distance. You're talking about teleportation, Marcus said flatly. That's science fiction. It's quantum entanglement, Alexandra corrected. And it's very real. Catherine has activated her end of the bridge. Lily is the key to crossing it safely. Before Marcus could protest further, the safe house security system blared with proximity warnings. Chun checked the perimeter cameras, her expression grim. 3 teams, tactical configuration, approaching from multiple angles. Professional operators, not local authorities. She drew her weapon. We have less than 4 minutes before breach. The reality of their situation hit Marcus with crushing force. There was no conventional escape route. No backup to call. Whatever he thought of Alexandra's quantum theories, staying meant putting Lily in the crosshairs of whoever had found them. How does it work? He asked, decision made. This quantum bridge. Alexandra moved to the nursery, returning with the still sleeping Lily. It requires physical connection between the anchor, Lily, and whoever is crossing. The bridge can only maintain stability for approximately 90 seconds once activated. Meaning what? Marcus pressed. Meaning only one of us can go with her, Alexandra stated, the implications clear. You or me. The choice hung between them. Impossible, unfair, yet unavoidable. Marcus looked from his daughter to this woman he barely knew yet who had revealed herself to be perhaps Lily's only hope of protection. If this works, he said carefully, and you cross this bridge with my daughter, how do I know you'll bring her back? Alexandra met his gaze directly, all corporate masks finally falling away to reveal the raw truth beneath. Because I've already lost one child to these people. I won't lose another. Or her father. She held out the quantum tracker. This works both ways, Mr. Hale. Where Lily goes, you can follow. Once we've secured Catherine. Chen's voice cut through their exchange. 2 minutes to breach. Decision time. Marcus looked at his sleeping daughter, the center of his universe, and made the most difficult choice of his life. You go, he told Alexandra. Find Julie, Catherine, and keep Lily safe until I reach you. He took the tracker, understanding its significance. I'll hold them off and follow when I can. Alexandra nodded once, respect evident in her expression. She moved to the quantum chamber, Lily secure against her chest in a specialized carrier. The bridge will activate automatically once it detects Lily's quantum signature, she explained, settling onto the narrow bed. When you use it, focus entirely on her. Any deviation could destabilize the pathway. Marcus nodded, throat too tight for words. He leaned down to press a kiss to his daughter's forehead, inhaling her familiar baby scent one last time before. Stepping back. 1 minute. Chun announced, positioning herself at the main entrance, weapon ready. Initiate now, or we lose our window. Alexandra activated the final sequence, the chamber humming to life around her. Marcus, she said, using his first name for the first time, if I don't make it, tell Catherine I never stopped looking. Not for 1 day. Before he could respond, the chamber filled with brilliant blue light, pulsing in rhythm with Lily's heartbeat. The air itself seemed to bend and fold, reality warping around the two figures on the narrow bed. And then, between one breath and the next, they were simply gone. The chamber empty except for a lingering trace of ozone in the air. Marcus stared at the vacant space, the quantum tracker in his hand, now showing two synchronized pulses moving across the digital landscape. It had worked. Whatever impossible science Alexandra had harnessed had actually worked. They're through, Chun confirmed, checking readings on the chamber's external monitor. Bridge stable and closed. No trace signature for pursuers to follow. As if on cue, the safe house perimeter alarms reached critical status. Whoever was coming had reached the final defense layer. What now? Marcus asked, military training already assessing weapons and defensive positions. Chen's answer was cut short by a deafening explosion as the main entrance blew inward. Through the smoke and debris, tactical operators in unmarked black gear poured into the space, weapons raised. Marcus dropped for cover, expecting gunfire, but instead a single figure walked calmly through the chaos. A woman in her 50s, silver-streaked dark hair framing an aristocratic face that carried hints of Alexandra's features, though harder, colder. Mr. Hale, she greeted him, her British accent refined and pleasant, entirely at odds with the violence of her entrance. I'm Victoria Hawthorne, Alexandra's sister-in-law, Daniel's sister. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I believe you have something that belongs to my family. The revelation struck Marcus with physical force. Not some nameless enemy, but family. The most insidious betrayal possible. Where are they, Marcus? Victoria continued, gesturing casually toward the quantum chamber. Where has Alexandra taken my niece's child? Understanding crystallized with terrible clarity. Victoria Hawthorne wasn't just part of the architects. She was their leader. The person who had orchestrated Catherine's abduction, Daniel's murder, and the trafficking operation that had destroyed countless lives. And now she wanted Lily. They're gone, Marcus stated flatly, the quantum tracker concealed against his palm. Somewhere you can't follow. Victoria's pleasant expression hardened. Everyone can be followed, Mr. Hale. It's simply a matter of finding the right trail. She nodded to one of her operatives, who approached with what appeared to be a medical case. In this instance, we'll need to be rather direct about creating one. As the operative opened the case, revealing equipment Marcus recognized from his military days, tools designed for extraction of information rather than medical treatment, he understood with cold certainty what was coming. His only hope, his daughter's only hope, lay in enduring whatever followed long enough for Alexandra to find Catherine and secure the evidence that could bring Victoria's operation crashing down. She activated the bridge, didn't she? Victoria asked, studying his face with clinical interest. Alexandra always was clever, finishing Daniel's work despite my best efforts to erase it. She sighed with what appeared to be genuine regret. Such a waste of resources. The child's genetic potential is extraordinary, a perfect blend of Catherine's cognitive architecture and your rather impressive physical resilience. The casual assessment of his daughter as a resource, a genetic asset, ignited something primal in Marcus's chest. "You won't find them," he stated with absolute conviction. "And when this is over, I'm going to personally ensure you never touch another child again." Victoria's smile returned, genuine amusement in her eyes. "Brave. I can see why Catherine chose you, however briefly." She nodded to her team. "Secure him. Full bioelectric protocol. If Alexandra used the quantum bridge, we'll need his neural patterns to follow." As the tactical team moved to restrain him, Marcus closed his hand around the quantum tracker, activating the emergency protocol Alexandra had hurriedly explained before entering the chamber. Break the physical tracker, and the quantum signature becomes untraceable for 12 hours. The device shattered beneath his grip, its delicate internal components crushed beyond recovery. Victoria's expression shifted from confidence to cold fury as she realized what he'd done. That, she said quietly, was extremely unwise. What followed would test Marcus's limits of endurance. But as darkness claimed him, one thought burned brighter than pain or fear. Somewhere across an impossible quantum bridge, his daughter was with the two women who might be her only hope of survival. And he would find his way back to her, no matter what it cost. Hey, amazing viewers, this story keeps getting more intense. Where are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments below. If you're as invested as I am in Marcus's sacrifice and the shocking family betrayal we just witnessed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next when Alexandra and Lily cross the quantum bridge to find Catherine. Will Marcus survive Victoria's interrogation? What evidence does Catherine have that could bring down the trafficking network? Share your theories in the comments. Blood trickled from Marcus's split lip as Victoria Hawthorne studied the quantum bridge chamber, her scientists working frantically to reactivate it. "Remarkable loyalty," she observed coldly. "Protecting a woman you barely know and a daughter who isn't genetically yours." Marcus's head snapped up. "What?" Victoria's smile was cruel. "DNA doesn't lie, Mr. Hale. Lily isn't your biological child. Catherine used you, a convenient guardian, while she hunted us." Before Marcus could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the facility. Victoria's comm unit erupted with panicked reports. Perimeter breach, multiple locations. The wall behind Victoria exploded inward. Through smoke and debris walked Catherine Hawthorne. Julie, her face harder than Marcus remembered, eyes burning with 13 years of focused rage. "Hello, Aunt Victoria," she said, raising a weapon with steady hands. "You look exactly as I remember." Behind her came Alexandra, Lily secured against her chest, and a tactical team wearing Hawthorne Technologies insignia. Victoria's smile never faltered. "Catherine, you've led us on quite the chase." "It's over," Catherine stated flatly. "The evidence has been transmitted to 17 separate agencies worldwide. Daniel's complete file on your operation, updated with 13 years of my own documentation." Marcus stared at the woman he'd known as Julie, the mother of his child, now revealed as someone far more complex. "You left us," he said, his voice raw with emotion. "Left Lily." Catherine's expression softened momentarily. "To protect you both. Victoria would have killed you to get to her." Marcus repeated, Victoria's revelation still echoing in his mind. Alexander stepped forward, Lily reaching instinctively toward Catherine. "Lily is a Hawthorne through and through. Daniel's legacy, his genetic legacy, preserved despite Victoria's best efforts." Understanding crashed through Marcus. Daniel's frozen embryos, the ones in his medical file. "My brother's final insurance policy," Victoria confirmed, genuine respect in her tone despite her precarious position. "Catherine was quite clever, selecting you as the surrogate father, a man with no resources to challenge her, yet skilled enough to protect the child when necessary." "I never meant to hurt you," Catherine told Marcus softly. "But Lily needed to be born away from Victoria's influence. You were kind, decent, everything she deserved in a father." Before Marcus could respond, Victoria moved with surprising speed, a concealed weapon appearing in her hand. "Family reunions are so touching," she said, aiming at Lily. "But some bloodlines need pruning. 3 shots rang out simultaneously, Catherine, Alexandra, and Marcus all firing in perfect synchronization. Victoria crumpled, her weapon unfired. In the stillness that followed, Catherine approached Marcus, Lily reaching eagerly for both of them. "Biology doesn't make family," she whispered, placing their daughter in his arms. "Love does. You're her father in every way that matters." Alexandra watched them, 13 years of grief finally giving way to something like peace. 6 months later, Marcus stood in Alexandra's office, watching Catherine demonstrate quantum encryption to wide-eyed executives. Lily played happily at his feet, occasionally glancing up at the 3 adults who had rewritten everything they understood about family to protect her. Not by blood alone, but by choice, by sacrifice, by love that transcended DNA and defied convention. The true definition of family, rewritten by an accidental midnight encounter that had changed all their lives forever. Hey everyone, I'm absolutely speechless from this incredible journey. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. If this story touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button. There are so many more emotional stories to share. What was your favorite moment from this family's extraordinary journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts below.